Friday, August 21st, 2026, and a lot's going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV. Magnitude 6.7 earthquake strikes Peru's southern Andes. So that is definitely something that is shaking that area, and it's caused and damaged buildings in that part of South America. At 77, she walked 9 miles under drone-filled skies to escape from hell. That's an article that was being reported in the New York Times. And a gunman seized a tanker off Yemen amid a resurgence of Somali piracy. So, two hijackings in 4 days. Somali piracy is rising, and definitely Somali pirate menace returns as U.S.-Iran war stokes regional chaos and saps enforcement resources. Muslim charity in Britain faces scrutiny for possible links to Hamas. So, Muslim Charity School investigated over Hamas links, and DFE assesses information on four schools following Al Khair Foundation statutory inquiry. So, charity cooperating with statutory inquiry over allegation of links with Hamas. U.S. and South Korean militaries wrap up drill early, a day after North Korea's missile barrage. Trump's order to cut military exercises with South Korea carries risk, experts are saying, as South Korean presidential office urges North Korea to stop unnecessary slander, according to some media reports. And Donald Trump abruptly scales back an exercise with South Korea. Hong Kong's Tiananmen Vigil fell dark years ago. Now its organizers have been convicted. Tiananmen Square Vigil organizers in Hong Kong found guilty of inciting subversion. So, why are Hong Kong's Tiananmen Vigil organizers facing prison is what some folks are asking. And Japan executes a man convicted of killing five in the 2009 Osaki Pachinko parlor arson. So that's definitely something going on in the Asian theater as well. Prince Harry and six others are ordered to pay an initial $9.5 million or 9.5 million pounds to the Daily Mail publisher. So that is definitely something that folks are talking about as well. Prince Harry, Elton John, and other high-profile figures are to pay £9.5 million toward the legal cost of the UK tabloid publisher. And Duchess very excited about acting comeback as Harry faces consequences of the court defeat. And drought prompts Panama Canal to reduce daily vessel transit. El Nino caused droughts in Panama is likely to raise prices on everything from medicine to fuel. Panama Canal to cut daily transit as El Nino grips that region. So Panama Canal to cut number of ships passing through due to El Nino. And former Zambian minister killed in post-election security raid. So Zambian police summoned opposition leader following disputed election. Ex-minister Matatati Kafwa killed in a security raid on opposition. UN rights chief is concerned about arrest of opposition figures in Zambia's election. And as we know, Cambridge professor Jason Arde died following the plagiarism row. So academic who publicized plagiarism allegations against Jason Arde has been suspended. And some people are asking, including those at the conversation, about Jason Arde and the new politics of plagiarism. The Cambridge chancellor criticizes racist feeding frenzy around Jason Arde. So it looks like even the City Journal is saying the Arde tragedy from tokenism to wokenism. And more than 2,300 Mexicans sent to Guatemala and Honduras, as it looks like Trump is ramping up some of his efforts as well. Strangers in their own land, Mexican deported from Trump's America find refuge in Little LA. U.S. deports nearly 2,300 Mexicans to Guatemala over Mexico's objection. U.S. apparently is quietly deporting Mexican migrants to Guatemala and Honduras, angering Mexico. And Giorgio Melani has a lot to say. The takeaways: Giorgio Melani cuts the hard right a path to power. And even they're talking at DW.com about Giorgio Melani and the language of fashion. From black boots to pastels, how Italian prime minister style is mirroring her politics. And a Russian strike kills 16 and injures 33 in Kyiv and surrounding region, and that was reported on yesterday. So definitely that's something going on as that war continues. Ukraine's equalizer bomb aims to blow up reliance on U.S. and European weapons. So new details emerge about Ukraine's homegrown Equalizer glide bomb. So definitely, it looks like this is a new guided bomb that is built with 90% domestic and Western parts. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. Mexican fishermen floating in cooler rescued after 5 days of being stranded in the sea. So he was found alive floating on a cooler 150 miles off of Mexico 5 days after going missing. So it looks like that cooler definitely helped him and all along those lines. China and Indonesia agreed to boost military ties to work closer on minerals, energy, and tech. And there is a article about a shortage of petrol, but not patriotism, as Russians feel growing impact of the war. So Russian is running on imported gasoline, the government confirmed. So frustrated Moscow drivers are facing long queues to refuel as fuel shortages return. So Russia runs out of petrol at 7 in 10 stations as their fuel crisis worsens. We'll get to some U.S. news, and of course, I'll bring in whoever I've got with me and all along those lines. So I know that I've got Rick Rosner. We'll see if anybody else joins us as well. But a lot's going on in the world. There's no doubt about that. A plane crash in western Alaska. A chartered plane crashed near remote Alaska radar site, killing all 8 on board. And that's something that was reported. And of course, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are to move back to Britain, as looks like they are heading back to their home area, at least the home area for Prince Harry and everything like that. And Trump is heading to South Carolina, just down from me, to rally for Senator Darlene Graham ahead of the runoff. So Trump visit through Myrtle Beach may trigger sudden road closures, flight delays, and drone limit. Looks like Trump is finally hitting the campaign trail. It's not for a battleground member, but it looks like he's going to visit Myrtle Beach ahead of the South Carolina Senate runoff and all in that space. And in your neck of the woods, progressive Aisha Wahab wins the California special election to fill Eric Swalwell's seat. So it looks like that's going to be who's going to do filling that seat and all along those lines. So she's a progressive, and she'll be filling the seat of Eric. And USS Doris Miller aircraft carrier has been renamed. So the Navy is discussing renaming the aircraft carrier after Trump instead of a heroic black sailor. So Navy reportedly in talks to name the new ship after Trump instead of a black World War II hero. So definitely U.S. Navy carrier set to honor black war hero, maybe reportedly be named after Trump. So he's going to name it after himself instead of after this hero and everything like that. And there's possible tornado causes property damage in Atlantic Beach. So this is something that I know the folks up north are concerned about in the New York area and everything like that. And Trump appears on former fixer turned enemy Michael Cohen's radio show. I didn't hear this interview. Maybe you heard it, but Donald Trump once called Michael Cohen a rat. Now Cohen says their relationship is being recitated and all in that way. So it looks like it was a warm interview at political low point for the president. So it looks like he found somebody that would interview him and not be all up in his grill, if I can use that term, and everything like that. So how are you doing, Rick? And what story?
I'm all right. We've got an eagle that might be a boy whore here in Southern California. So Jackie and Shadow were a famous eagle couple.
Right.
There was a camera that shows them raising chicks from eggs over the past few years. Well, Jackie got in a fight with another lady eagle named, they think she's a lady, Katie. And Jackie eventually succumbed to her injuries.
Right.
But within a week of Jackie's death, Katie is now apparently shacking up with Shadow at this nest that is so. And they say it's because, it's getting time to, I guess, I don't know, do eagle stuff, couple stuff. And also because eagles' nests are at a premium. And if you have a really nice, eagle's lair, I guess it's catnip for the ladies. So the widower of Jackie already has a new girlfriend.
He's got a new eagle girlfriend, and that's interesting news. I did see some stuff about.
Well, let's talk about another girlfriend, though.
Yes.
Pete Hegseth's wife is his most trusted advisor, and without a security clearance is sitting in on all sorts of meetings and telling him what's what. And these guys have a super fun history. She was a producer at Fox News. He was an on-camera personality, and they were fucking each other while they were each married to somebody else. And they even started growing a kid while they were married to other people. Now, of course, they're married to each other. And she goes to all these meetings with Hegseth, including maybe classified. And the trouble with this is that if she's his most trusted advisor, that means the three people with the most influence over, running the military, only one of them has any military experience. Pete Hegseth made it to major, which in terms of military experience isn't jack shit. It's 5 ranks below 3-star general. And the ranking system in the military is a quality control system that you're constantly being evaluated. And if you get the training and you get the leadership experience you've got a 4-year window, a 2-year window if you move fast, 4 years if you move at a more normal rate, to go to military college, to go to military schools, to get the training, to take leadership positions, and if you do that, and if your superiors think that you're competent, you maybe get to move up in rank. And there are many bottlenecks in the ranking system. I think only 3% of colonels get to move up to 1-star general. Anyway, Hegseth skipped all that. He never made it past major, and he's being advised by his wife, whose experience is TV producer. Now, Mark, you're an experienced radio, TV, and event producer.
Yes.
But I don't think that qualifies you to help run the Department of Defense, which has 2.8 million employees.
Yeah, I would not be able to do that job. There's a lot of people that are there and everything like that. That's a lot of hand-holding and responsibility and all in that space. But you are correct about the chances you get. I think you get 2 passes at the apple, if I can use.
That's right. Yeah, in the military, you apply.
My cousin was I think he made it up to lieutenant colonel, but he had 2 shots to make it up to the general rank and everything like that. And now he's working in the civilian field. He's actually
right. My brother, same thing. My brother made it to lieutenant colonel, and he had 2 shots. You have 2 years to get further training. And the first time around, he didn't make it. And then, so he did more stuff for 2 more years, had a variety of postings in South Korea and all over the place. And on the second time around, after 4 years as a lieutenant colonel, he didn't make it that time either. So he was mustered out, and he was starting work as a civilian contractor at the Pentagon. He'd worked at the Pentagon before, when he, tragically passed away. But Jennifer Hegseth, no military experience. Donald Trump, he went to military school, but that was basically because as a kid, he was an asshole and his parents thought he needed discipline. But no real military experience. And 3 inexperienced people are running this organization that has 2.8 million employees, the most employees that Hegseth has ever been in charge of before is maybe 100 people at a military charity he was fired from.
Right, he was fired from that charity. By the way, I don't know, I think your daughter is in her 20s or something in that range, but apparently there is news coming out of, it looks like Florida, where there is a polling firm that's coming under fire for falsified data on the Florida primary, and apparently the website behind the widely shared fake election poll is run by a 21-year-old. So maybe somebody.
So they didn't just falsify results; they made them up entirely. They didn't poll anybody. They didn't take some polling results and goose the numbers. They just they pulled numbers straight out of their ass.
Right.
And now this kid says, well, it was just a social media experiment. So this is the time of year when right-leaning polling companies do something called flooding the zone, because there are poll aggregators like Nate Silver's Silver Bullet, and they take all the polls out there and then they average them to tell you like how are the Republicans doing, how's Trump doing. And at this time of year, we have 74 days until the midterms. Some polling companies start polling more frequently, so they essentially get more votes in these aggregations. So it's a time for polling bullshit.
Well, speaking of BS and everything like that, apparently, because I was reading before starting the show and everything like that, Vance is saying that we're going to a new phase of economic pressure and that everything's good in the war with Iran. And he apparently made these comments in a public forum and was getting booed and everything along those lines because folks were going like they knew what was happening in their
Yeah,
gas.
well, let's go to Sasha. Sasha, is everything going great with the war in Iran?
I don't think there is still a war because nobody is shooting at anybody. So I don't understand. It's a war, it's a peace, or something in between. Nobody knows, and I'm not sure if Trump can afford to continue that status quo until the midterm election and just leave it as it is. It's possible, but I don't think it would add him any votes. What could add him any votes, I don't know. Just to
So
keep
this is day 110 of the national average price of gas being over $4 a gallon. It's 4.11 right now. Trump promised us $2 a gallon gas. It's hard to see how it gets. We're a couple weeks. Well, no, we're like a week and a half away from there's going to be a small jump up for the Labor Day weekend in the price of gas as people do some driving. Then there will be a small drop in the price of gas as we shift over from summer weight gas, which is more expensive to be less polluting, to winter weight gas, which is slightly cheaper. And Trump, I think, has announced that we're getting rid of summer weight gas early, I think, to try to get a price drop. I don't know that with Iran continuing to have the Strait of Hormuz closed down for the most part, where 100 ships used to go through the strait before the war. Now it's down to under 10 a day, down from 100. I don't know. And Iran wants, as Sasha will tell you, wants to humiliate Trump in the midterm. So I don't know that Trump will be able to get the price of gas down in the next 2.5 months.
Yeah, so before, the Iranians are doing pretty well the same what they did to Carter back 45 years ago. And they will keep on their same strategy, no war, no peace, nothing, no negotiations, until midterm election. If they will see the Trump party lost badly, then they may come to some agreement or whatever is possible, and it depends who will be in charge. Now, if Republicans will lose both the House and the Senate, so then it will be a completely different set for negotiations being available. So that Iranians made it.
So let's talk about. Go ahead.
Eric, this is not the biggest problem what now U.S. is facing. The biggest problem is $40 trillion debt and growing, and that brings much lower dollar. It brings much higher interest rates, and so the mortgages will be much costlier. There will be car loans much costlier, and all the economic setup, the borrowing cost, everything will be affected or getting already affected. This is probably economically the bigger problems in Iran, because with Iran, okay, so Republicans will lose midterm elections, so there will be new people. So maybe there will be some kind of a peace agreement or no agreement. It's not so important anymore. It's so important that where U.S. is heading economically, and then there is no such a short fixing as okay, here is a peace with Iran, here is this, here is that. No, there is no way out. That's what it is.
So yesterday when we checked, the national average interest rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage was 6.65%. Today they're telling me it's 6.72 to 6.76. That's hugely high. If you borrow,
it just started. It will go like parabolically higher every single day because the purchasers of U.S. debt, they are demanding higher, and in some cases much higher interest rates for the risk what they're taking. It's 30 years. We don't know what in 30 years US dollar will be costing. Maybe it won't even exist. We are taking a huge risk buying your debt. Pay us the money. You can't, so we are not taking your debt.
So, but this screws up the home market because say you borrow $500,000 on a home. That means you're paying $35,000, $34,000 a year just in interest, which is $3,000 a month, which not everybody can afford. You know, people are more willing to buy houses when mortgage rates are around 5%.
It's not going to happen anytime soon. Forget it.
So, but let's go back to Jimmy Carter for a second. What happened? So, when Carter's president, the Shah of Iran is overthrown by the Ayatollahs. It's a Muslim fundamentalist revolution, and they take, I think, 44 Americans from the embassy hostage, and they hold them under Jimmy Carter for nearly 600 days. Carter tried to get in there to rescue them. That mission failed. Meanwhile, Reagan's running against Carter for president, and they're secretly negotiating with the Iranian leadership, saying, just hold on to these people until Carter's out, and when Reagan becomes president, we'll get you guys special deals. This was the whole Iran-Contra scandal, that only the president is supposed to be able to negotiate and his people with foreign governments. But Reagan was negotiating even before he was president. And then the very day that Reagan took the oath of office, Iran released all the hostages.
Right. Yeah, they said it was a planned situation and everything like that. Speaking of another former president, apparently Bill Clinton was celebrating his 80th birthday, and Rick, you'll be glad to know he's joined the Beard Club because they said that he looked unrecognizable with his long hair and an unkept beard as he appeared for his 80th birthday and everything like that.
Yeah, as somebody with a beard, I can tell you a beard is what happens when you quit giving a shit. I haven't dealt with this in weeks. You know, I probably should, but maybe at 80 years old, he feels like, you know, he's probably not getting laid anymore. So he's quit giving a shit.
He's probably like Hillary's not doing what she would have been doing in the past. And they, like I said, there was rumors of both of them. Well, in his case, it wasn't rumors. He did have a relationship with other people, but there were always rumors about her having side affairs as well. But who knows what?
No, well, I've never heard any rumors, I believe, about Hillary Clinton hooking up with other people.
Yeah, I've heard
and of course, Bill Clinton hooked up. He might be our second rapiest president, with Trump being our most rapey president.
Okay, so he would get the award for the second most famous one in that.
Yeah, I mean, and our JFK hooked up a lot too, but I feel like a lot of that was more or less consensual.
Yeah, and he was dealing with his Hollywood elite and folks like that. So a lot of those, like you said, it was probably consensual, whether it was with Marilyn or other folks as well. So
yeah. And like we had a JFK expert on your show like a month ago, and she said a lot of the rumors about who JFK was banging are exaggerated, but she was a pro JFK person. So who knows?
Who knows, and who knows about a lot of those rumors that go out there and all in that space. What's our thoughts around this notion of these folks being exported from the U.S. And being sent? Apparently, they're Mexicans, but they're being sent to Honduras and other places. I know the Mexican political.
It's just cruel. It's cruel bullshit to kick people out of the U.S., but to a country that they've never lived in is what kind of horse shit is that? I mean, why are they taking Mexican nationals,
right,
and deporting them? You know, the closest country to deport people to, well, you got two choices. You got Canada and you have Mexico. Why are you taking Mexicans and sending them another 2,000 miles south to Guatemala when they're from Mexico and they have a family in Mexico? It's just Trump's racist government fucking with defenseless people.
Yeah, he likes to do that a lot and everything.
I mean, he's sent people to Uganda, which is a shithole country, as Trump likes to call it, in the middle of Africa. You're taking people from South America and sending them to an entirely other continent where the odds that they are able to get themselves out of this country, where they don't speak the language, where they don't look like the people, where they have no family or friends. That's just, what is that?
That's amazing. Speaking of amazing, I'm just impressed by this. Speaking of Mexico, by this Mexican fisherman that was out fishing and somehow realized that the cooler could be used as a flotation device and everything like that. So it was on the sea for 5 days. That's a long time to be floating around on a cooler and everything like that. But he was very resourceful in terms of figuring out that a cooler could work and everything along those lines. So you're a Mensa person, Rick, would you have thought of this solution and everything?
If you're bobbing in the ocean and the only thing bobbing next to you is the cooler, I probably would have made the connection. Okay. But I don't, the only time I go out on the ocean, and Sasha has the same, is I only do it if I'm on a 10,000 ton cruise ship,
right,
which is a much better flotation device.
Oh yeah, that's a much better flotation device, even though it can get choppy, because I know the only cruise I've been on, we had some choppy seas, and they do try to give you that.
They're not choppy anymore because these massive ships, they have computer stability controls, and they have these little fins under the water that are able to stabilize the ship. So I've, never been anything close to seasick on a ship. I don't know if that I've even ever been in the situation where, like in the restaurant, like a plate moves because the ship is rocking. The cruise ships are very stable and comfortable.
Yep, they seem to be stable and comfortable. How comfortable were you with your one-day training? Because they do train you on those flotation devices basically in a quick one-day drill.
Yeah, we ditched the orientation, and then they came after us. They said, you have to go get your training. And the training was like 3 minutes, which is basically just grab your life jacket and show up here. And then if something happens.
Yep. By the way, the world's oldest person is still out there, and she just celebrated, apparently today, her 117th birthday. So would either one of you two gentlemen like to make it to 117? So she survived COVID, and apparently she was sharing some of her secrets to a long life.
Yeah, I would. I mean, people, when they get to that age, I'm sure being alive isn't that fun, but I'd still like a shot at it. And with AI and med tech improving at crazy rates, what you want is to live into your 90s, but with the health and appearance of somebody in their 60s or 70s, which it seems doable in the reasonably near future.
And that seems doable and everything like that. But the one thing that none of us can escape is we all live and we all die at some point or another as well. But it looks like there was a gentleman that was convicted and was serving in the death row for back in the 1950s, and he just died of natural causes while in prison after escaping the death penalty 8 times. So he's supposed to have been executed 8 times and got off all 8 times. Guess it was commuted or whatever.
So that's a problem with the death penalty is
fate of that we all have and all of those.
Right. So one problem with the death penalty is that he was scheduled to be killed 8 times. Every time he had his lawyers step in and say nope. And every time the government had to fight to kill him with lawyers. So the total cost of keeping this guy alive, beside his room and board, probably ran into the millions. All the legal wrangling that went on. It's expensive to try to put somebody to death in America because it involves hundreds and thousands of hours of lawyers.
Yep. By the way, apparently we're not doing what this lady Ethel Caterham is arguing for and everything like that, because soon after she shared her simple yet profound secret to a long life, she said, avoid arguments, never argue with anyone. I listen and do what I like, she said. So apparently that's the secret, is never arguing. And I know that sometimes we have arguments and sometimes robust arguments.
So, okay, this 117-year-old lady, that's a 1 in a billion chance. And that's all it is chance. Like they ask people, what'd you do to live so long? Well, I mean, yeah, if you don't play Russian roulette, you don't skydive, but besides that, it's mostly luck.
Right. There's no doubt it's mostly luck and everything like that. There's no doubt about that. So I know later on we're gonna have stuff around Ukraine on Sasha's show and everything like that. What other stories are you seeing on The Drudge? And I'm sure you got some questions for Jatovia about some TV show or movie or some tech AI stuff.
I don't know. Like, I mean, a lot of it, what I'm seeing is just like nonsense. Most of the headlines on Drudge are stuff that don't really affect people in general. Like, so Ridley Scott has a new post-apocalyptic movie. Who cares? Or I mean, does that affect you? Yeah, if you want to see a movie, you want to know whether it's up, but it really, it's not the job market. It's not any of this stuff. People are being creeped out by. 20 years ago, there was a product called Google Glass, which were glasses that had a camera and all sorts of other tech in them. And if people saw you wearing them, like they popped up among tech bros in San Francisco, you could get yelled at or hassled because they were considered perv glasses. The same thing is happening again. There are Meta glasses out. Actually, there are a lot of brands of these glasses. Ray-Ban has camera glasses, and there are plenty of good reasons for wearing these glasses, for getting information if they have heads-up displays. I don't know that they do. I guess you can probably record. You don't need a camera but anyway, they're not well regarded. Because people think they can record people, like if you're behind somebody on an escalator, you can just look up their skirt or something. I don't know, Jatovia, are these glasses ever going to catch on and ever be considered not creepy?
Not creepy, no. They're going to catch on because a lot of people are going to use them for different things. They've been around for a long time. They started a long time ago, but yeah, they're starting to pick up now because you can use them for different things. Here you go. Since everybody's kind of quiet on things, this is actually very true. I can share with you guys this. It's let me pull it up real quick. There we go. This is true. Mark, if you want to share that.
Yeah.
Something you can talk about.
Is happening to our food.
Here you go.
What the fuck is happening to our food? Because lately grocery shopping in America feels like somebody replaced the weekly circular with a fucking police blotter. Salmonella in the eggs, E. coli in the blueberries, Cyclospora in the lettuce, Listeria in the cheese, botulism concerns in powdered infant formula. And then there's all the shit getting yanked because it may contain glass, metal, foreign material, undeclared allergens, and assorted industrial confetti that generally does not appear anywhere on the goddamn food pyramid. At this point, you don't pack a lunch. You conduct a pre-flight inspection. And gee, what happened before this increasingly bacterial botulistic bowel battering game of grocery store roulette? Donald Trump turned huge chunks of the federal government over to the most demented fucking circus duo since somebody gave two meth-addled carnies a clipboard, bolt cutters, and the keys to the tilt-a-whirl. The brainworm shit swimmer and the Hitler-saluting budget butcher, RFK Jr. and Elon Musk. They came careening through government, hacking, slashing, firing, downsizing, decimating, and generally treating the agencies responsible for food safety like an abandoned circuit city they'd been hired to strip for copper. Thousands of FDA jobs targeted, experienced personnel gone, food safety checks disrupted, scientists, inspectors, institutional knowledge, all fed into the Doge wood chipper, while these swaggering dipshits congratulated themselves for eliminating waste. And now the fucking grocery store is fear factor, because Donald Trump does not give a fuck whether there are enough inspectors checking your kid's lunch. He's busy obsessing over a helipad. Oh, and he's busy, traveling with Natalie. You're not supposed to spend Thursday afternoon wondering whether the Caesar salad contains croutons or fucking shrapnel. But when you put a toilet coke sniffing, whale decapitating, bear dumping, baby bird blending psychopath in one corner and a white supremacist ketamine soaked budget pyromaniac in the other, then let them hack through the boring federal machinery designed to keep poisons, pathogens, and pieces of the fucking factory out of your mouth, maybe dinner becoming a gastrointestinal demolition derby shouldn't come as a tremendous surprise. And I'm old enough to remember when the smooth-brained, mouth-breathing, price of eggs pissing and moaning motherfucker spent an entire election whining that breakfast cost too much and decided Donald Trump was going to descend from his golden escalator like the fucking archangel of affordable omelets. Remember that? Eggs were too expensive. Inflation was intolerable. Vote Trump and breakfast will be saved. Now the eggs still cost more and you have to check whether eating them is going to turn your lower intestine into a fucking slip and slide. Fantastic. And all this Maha bullshit about making America healthy again? Healthy? Motherfucker, I shouldn't need a hazmat suit, an FDA database, and the vigilance of a prison guard at a SHIV convention just to fucking eat. That does not spell health. Maha doesn't stand for Make America Healthy. It stands for Make America Hazardous Again. Bon appetit, dipshits.
So the reason I played that or showed that is multiple reasons. One, everything she said is true. Two, everything she said is what the base of the party is feeling and what many independents, especially in the youth movement, are feeling and the passion that they have. So this is where I think when I don't know if we discussed it, but we've discussed it this whole week. The different viewpoints of, the Democrat socialists or, El Said or, these people. This is where, honestly, many people are. And the passion that they have right now and the anger and the angst, that's why a lot of these individuals are winning. But, yeah, she represents a lot of where people are right now.
And the reason I think she said it, that the one reason that we're having these outbreaks is that Doge fired and RFK fired a ton of people. However, if you compare the stats, we've had 162 food recalls as of last week so far this year, which is on par with previous years. The two worst years were under Trump were 2018 and 2020. I guess 2020 was a bad year because nobody was in charge because COVID created chaos.
Well, also, you've got to look at everything else. It's more so than just the food recalls. I mean, we also have the highest measles outbreak in how many years?
Since 1991.
Yep. And who had it before that? That was last year.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And who had it before that? In 2019 and 2020. Or I'm sorry, 2019 and 2018. So the highest outbreaks of measles are happening up under what's going on now. You have all these medical issues that are coming out of the woodworks that are happening right now, and this administration is doing nothing about it. They're worried about vanity projects and stuff like that. So
that's one thing preventing food outbreak. Another thing is just shutting down the science. Last week, it was announced that they came up with an mRNA vaccine against the most dangerous form of skin cancer, melanoma, and which is great. But so much science. We want vaccines against every form of cancer, and who knows how much work is not happening because those scientists have lost funding and lost their jobs. I got pissed at, I've been friends with Adam Carolla forever, and lately he's just like been posting a ton of shit on X that is making fun of people who care about COVID and say you got played, and I came back and I said, ooh, you're so oppressed, but you had to get a vaccine that 5.5 billion people on the planet got, and you couldn't stand within 6 feet of somebody at Trader Joe's. Such oppression. And then one of his dipshit followers wrote back and said, why? Science? And it's like, well, yeah, asshole, yes, science. But right now, science isn't being done.
Hey, to Toby and Rick, one of the things I've heard, and I actually heard it even from people that were at the Ta-Nehisi Coates event a couple of days ago and all along those lines, is I hear what you're saying. I hear what that passionate YouTuber said and everything along those lines. But, and maybe he's got some thoughts around this as well, but there is this fear that there is not enough mobilization, and there is still a lot of apathy even among the independents and the Democrats, and that there's not enough folks that are mobilizing terms and
okay, statistically there's a bunch of evidence that those are well-founded fears. Even in the middle of the piss poor job that Trump is doing, he still holds on to 38% average approval across all these polls versus 58% disapproval. Now, that's the second highest level of disapproval in the history of presidential polling at a midterm. So he's doing bad, but considering how bad he's actually doing, his approval numbers are disturbingly high.
Yeah.
So Mark, and just to reiterate this passion, let me as an example again, I got another one for you. This one's out of North Carolina. This one isn't youth. This is actually what's going on right now. These are actual individuals that are speaking out against I mean, if you can bring it up, you can see the passion in what they are fighting for, because people are about the whole people taking issue with a school hiring a transgender individual.
We know that there's been a kind of national kerfuffle created because there may or may not be a teacher in our school system that's either non-binary or trans. I don't even actually know. But I've been seeing people talk about, oh, well, there's instruction on gender and sexuality. When what they really mean is a trans or non-binary teacher exists. They're not providing lessons on gender or sexuality. To the best of my understanding, they're providing the curriculum required by this county and the state. But apparently the mere existence of a human being is now to be considered a lesson.
Tonight I'm speaking in support of an educator, a young teacher who's in her first job out of college, teaching music to elementary school children. She chose education. She chose to serve children. She chose to bring the arts, creativity, and learning to the classroom. And instead of finding encouragement, she has become the target of political attacks because of how she wants to show up in the world.
I've often heard the term parental rights thrown around by organizations and individuals who have been supporting a gender dress code. And I often wonder, where were these organizations and individuals when the board proposed to cut $18 million from the budget? Why were they not fighting for parents' rights of a fully funded school? I'm a proud NC public school product. I'm also transgender. While I'm grateful to many teachers, I grew up without any trans role models. I was raised in the idealized environment for proponents of a sex-based dress code. I had a nuclear family. I went to church every Sunday, and I never met a trans adult. I first learned about transgender people, ironically, because of the 2016 NC bathroom bans in my junior year of high school. This finally gave me the language and framework to understand my emotions, why I was miserable, why I would self-harm, and why I'd wanted to myself since I started puberty. But then I noticed I'd never seen a trans adult, especially not in any position of professionalism. This made me believe I wasn't wanted, and that I had to choose to stay closeted and miserable to have a good life. I tried this for years before realizing it would lead to my early death. Now I've been transitioning for about 2 years, and I'm surrounded by loving friends and family, and I'm so grateful I survived. But I don't want other young trans people to go through the pain I did. The lives of our trans students are at stake if we move to rob them from ever being able to see themselves.
I am here tonight because a local politician is making a teacher's perceived gender identity into a public problem right before her election. Let's call it what it is. A campaign strategy, and a teacher's life is what she's using to build it. I don't know that teacher's gender identity. I don't need to. It isn't my business, and it sure isn't the politicians. What I do know is she found herself a story, and now she's got her coverage. Her election's coming up, and a teacher's name is being dragged through both. Our LGBTQ plus students are watching, and they're learning something about whether this district will actually protect them or abandon them the second it's useful to somebody's campaign.
And if we expect our children to practice kindness, respect differences, and stand up for others when they are treated bad and called names, then the adults around them have to model that same value.
So I want to talk about how trans issues are used in the real world. So Darlene Graham is the sister of late Senator Lindsey Graham. She was appointed to replace him when he suddenly died in the Senate, and now she's running to serve a full 6 years. And at a debate, she was asked, "What do you think about Taiwan?" And her response was, "I don't know about Taiwan." Actually, no, she said that. And then the day after, when people asked her about her terrible performance, she said, "Well, I don't really care about Taiwan. I'm concerned about boys in girls' sports." And so, state of Georgia, you can probably guess how many boys there are in girls' sports in Georgia. 0. And in fact, it's already illegal for trans kids to compete in girls' sports there. So it's a solved problem there. But this unqualified candidate is leaning on the issue to cover up her other deficiencies.
And that's the game. And honestly, Mark, when you had asked the question, well, are people mobilizing, blah, 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 blah. The problem is that when people mobilize, especially the Democrat Party, they're not standing 10 toes down. They're trying to appease everybody. So it sounds very unauthentic, which what people are looking for is some type of authenticity. It also sounds like they're wavering on what they're doing. So if you're going to mobilize, stand 10 toes down. Honestly, the transgender thing isn't a thing. And you saw the various people that they had, the age groups and everything. All of them had passion. All of them had that yearning. So you could actually utilize that passion, and those same individuals, get them on your side the same way that you've got to get the African American section on your side. You've got to get those individuals that are looking for work on your side, but you've got to learn how to stand 10 toes down. MLK Jr. We celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. And how he was able to get everybody moving together and the national movements that he had. Many people forget that he really marched for workers' rights. That was where his biggest push was. It wasn't about the civil rights movement. Yes, he marched for the civil rights movement, but no, the workers' rights were the biggest piece of his march, and he had multiple sections of society behind him and working with him on that. So therefore, we have to realize when you stand 10 toes down and actually stand for something and push forward, you can grab people to work towards that same agenda.
But it's tough to get young people. It's hard to get young people to turn out to vote. And the last 3 presidential elections, we only had like one person who was younger than their late 70s running for president. That was Kamala Harris, who was 60, and she only ran for a few months.
Yes.
So it's hard to get 18 to 24s to turn out to think that any of the crusty old 80-year-olds.
Part of that is what Jacoby just said, which is he was definitely meeting Martin Luther King pro-workers, but he was also anti-war. And one of the things that I just recently learned, which I had forgotten about, was that actually he was not the first one in his family that came out against the war. That was actually Coretta Scott King that came out against it first, and then he followed Coretta afterwards with agreeing with her and being very much of an advocate against the war against Vietnam. But it was actually Coretta that came before Martin Luther King in terms of being against the war, from my understanding, and all along those lines. But there's also sometimes division that goes on within. Like I said, I saw Reverend Carl Kennedy recently, and I agree with him that sometimes we have to respect those that are also speaking, because there's now this controversy around Reverend Barber, who's part of the Poor People's March, because apparently he did something that was disrespectful. At least some people felt it was disrespectful to the political leader Valerie Fouché and everything like that. So now there's this whole back and forth debate around that. So sometimes we also get into this inner fights as well. So what can we do to stop these inner fights, and how can we mobilize? Because one of the things that people are afraid of is, like, even with the No Kings March, those, I went to a couple of them. They're great marches, they're great mobilizing efforts, but then people ask, what is the action afterwards? Even sometimes Sasha talks about that, is, yeah, you're marching, but what are you doing afterwards? Is actually mobilizing people to get people to actually do action, because you can mobilize all day.
As long as people put aside their differences after they're done fighting. In Texas, there's Jasmine Crockett ran against Tallarico in the Democratic primary. And a lot of people are saying she's not being sufficiently supportive of Tallarico. Now, I don't know. There's a lot of bullshit flying around always in Texas. So
until we actually have conversations, it's easy to pick up what we all know what sells on TV. Any controversy is going to sell. Anything that comes together, any two groups coming together, that's not your big seller. That's not what people want to see on TV. People watch NASCAR to watch car crashes, and that's an old adage that's always been around, and it's always going to be there. But the thing is, if you want those coalitions to build, you've got to be able to talk. Take, for instance, right now, if Sasha needed anything, I'd help Sasha as much as I could. Sasha and I had, we would go. Even still now, we'll argue on particular things, but Sasha and I are able to talk and have conversations because we understand our positions and respect each other. We have, like years ago, Sasha and I would go head to head and fight each other. We're yelling at each other back and forth. But if Sasha needed anything, I consider Sasha a good friend, and I would do whatever I can for Sasha, and I'm sure he would do the same. But that's what it is. If we're building coalitions, you've got to be able to talk. You've got to be able to negotiate. Any war, if you think of all the wars in the past, unless you're killing everybody, you've got to have some type of diplomacy near the end to figure out how everything how we're going to move forward. What's going to be leadership? What's going to figure out that's where that move forward has to happen. Especially when you're having these coalitions, those individuals, two competing ideas that are actually wanting the same thing at the end. If one ends up in a vote like Tallarico and Crockett, if Tallarico wins, well, let's figure out a way that Crockett can help, and Crockett can go out and work in these areas, and being able to publicize that without actually overshadowing Tallarico. But it happens. But right at this moment, especially, we've got to be able to talk afterwards and have a plan.
There's one more dimension, which is if young voters are turned off by 80-year-old presidential candidates, they're turned on by young, energetic candidates. Mamdani, freaking young, smiling, all over, energetic, Al-Said. It's not. It's their politics is one thing. But also that they're just freaking, you can look up Al-Said bench pressing 315 pounds. But Trump would. The reason he did that, honestly, was a response to the whole man movement that Trump is doing. And that's what we have to understand, is reading where the tea leaves are.
And the tea leaves are pointing to youth. And until we actually involve the youth and actually energize the youth and actually really bring them into whatever you're looking for. Here's another guy. This is where he speaks well. Here you go, Mark. You can share this one. He's a representative of the youth, and he speaks about it.
Does anybody remember when Gandhi marched 241 miles for salt? Not money, not diamonds, not land, salt. Anyways, growing up, my mother was very adamant about us voting. When we were able to vote, she made sure she took us to the polls. She always encouraged us to use our voice and vote. So in turn, I do the same. Every time I'm around my friends or I know it's voting time, I try to encourage other people to vote. This was me 7 years ago, encouraging rappers to go vote. I said, if you go vote and you prove to me that you voted, I'll promote your music. You ain't got to tell me who you voted for. I just want you to go vote. Now, obviously, I'm telling you this because my platform now is a lot bigger than it was back then. But even back then, I got messages like this. Premium, voting don't matter. It ain't real. And I get that. I just can't wrap my head around why so many powerful people would want to control something that don't matter or isn't real. Oh, sorry. The salt thing. Back in the 1930s, India was under British rule, and the British had a monopoly on India's salt. And when I say monopoly, I'm meaning Indians couldn't go on their own coastline, collect salt, and sell it. They had to go through the British system, and that system would tax them for their own salt. Gandhi ain't like that. He ain't like that one bit. But some of his friends and his family didn't understand why he was so dead set on this salt thing. Even one of his homies that became the prime minister later was confused. He was bewildered that Gandhi was so dead set on this salt situation, but Gandhi was seeing something that some of his friends and his family ain't see. If the British were willing to monopolize and have power and control over this salt, there had to be more there. It had to be more valuable than they were making it seem. So he held that march, collected that salt, and inspired others to do so too. Tens of thousands of people were arrested for collecting salt. You see, sometimes you can find out how powerful something really is by looking at the power somebody's willing to use to control that. So when you say preemie, our votes don't matter. I'm always going to ask, if our votes don't matter, why are they doing everything in their power to make sure we can't vote? At one point, women couldn't vote. Black people couldn't vote. Poor people couldn't vote. We had a poll tax, literacy test, redistricting, and now they're asking for your birth certificate and your social security number for you to go vote at the polls. If what you're saying is true, and our votes don't matter, why do they care so much? Women couldn't vote. Black people couldn't vote. And poor people couldn't vote. Who was left to vote? No, stop the music. Do the math. Use your fingers. If it's not women, not black people, and not poor people, who would be allowed to vote? The same people that are trying to control voting are telling you to your face, we are the only people we think are worthy of voting. And through some avenue of conspiracy, they convince you that your vote doesn't matter. And you're willing to die on that hill. For them, I guess. That makes sense.
So we need more people like this guy, because Musk is planning on spending $100 million in the next 2.5 months on the midterms. And he did it for the presidential. Like, remember when he was giving away $1 million a day to people who voted? He bought the election in Michigan and other swing states, and he's planning on doing that shit again.
Yep. And the thing is, again, that's why I pointed to him as people were telling him that voting doesn't matter, and these are, it doesn't matter, who cares about voting, blah 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 blah. That is a theme that's actually there. And the reason it's there is people got convinced. And the reason they got convinced is because they felt like they voted and nothing happened. And people weren't actually representing them. So it just doesn't matter because, the Republicans and the Democrats, they are the same and blah, blah, blah. Well, the thing is, until we read those tea leaves and understand what's out there, become authentic in what we're saying, stand 10 toes down and stop wavering back and forth, and stop going down these alleyways of that's where people are. This is why I think El Said will actually win in was that Minneapolis or Michigan? I'm sorry.
In Michigan.
So I think El Said will win because he's very authentic. He's actually standing 10 toes down. He doesn't care about all this. He's not going down these pathways of different things. No, he's telling people, hey, look, I care about your money. And this is what I'm trying to do is help you with your money. And that's where, again, if the Democrats are going to have any success, stop wavering, start actually standing for something. And even when you hear, oh, well, you're doing this, you're doing that. When did I say that? All right, let's talk about it.
Here's where Biden fucked up. He hid from the people. Every day, Trump and his people are out there blaming Biden for everything going wrong in the country. High meat prices, high gas prices. They'll find a way to blame Biden. Biden, when he was in charge, he was never in front of the people. He needed to go out there and he needed to tell people what was what, why inflation was happening. And blaming, a lot of the inflation was Trump's fault. Gas prices, the first time around, were freaking Trump's fault. He never explained that.
Well, the thing is, that's not where Biden messed up. Biden got votes because he said, I was only going to be in here for one term.
Okay.
And then when he changed, that's when people were like, okay, this is a problem. So,
but that's only a problem in the second half of his presidency. In the first half, he needed to get the hell out there in front of people.
Well, honestly, he didn't even, him doing whatever he did was fine. But what happened to Biden when he messed up was when he said, I'm running again. When everybody believed that he was just going to be a transitional president, which is what he sold himself as. That's that authenticity. People voted on Biden because of authenticity. They were upset at Trump, but a lot of that swing vote, independent vote, youth vote, the black vote, yeah, that was because, hey, I'm a transitional president. I'm just going to be here one term. That's all I'm going to be here. I just want to come in and kicks.
That's what he said he was going to do. And by the way, we're going to get to the Ukraine show and everything along those lines. By the way, Rick, before we go and everything, one thing that I learned, because I heard that speech that you brought about the Indian War and salt, and I was actually watching something on Mike Carolina, and I think it was a Native American group and everything like that. I did not realize, and I will admit some of the things that I forget, even from my own education, that salt is directly connected to the word salary, because that's what we used to pay folks in and all along those lines. But I had forgotten that part till I was watching this piece around Native and all.
Yeah, they used to pay Roman soldiers in salt, I guess, and so yeah.
Right, so that's where the word salary came from. They were being paid in salt, so that's how the word comes from. It's always interesting finding the roots of words and all along those lines. But on that note, we're going to get on out of here and everything like that, and we'll be back with more shows on the network. Right now, they've got Ukraine, Russia, and I think they're recording the chess show for Saturday, and we might have some other shows coming this way as well. But always great things happening on Pod TV, and I'll see you folks on Monday. So
all right, see you then. Thank you.
Show. And at some point, we got to get another one of the episodes of Naked at Night. But I know you.
Yeah, we almost did one last week, but then I just didn't want to deal. But yeah, before the midterms, we will do another set of shows.
All right, sounds good. So on that note, we're going to get out of here, and we'll be looking forward to that as well.
Bye.